Hello everybody, it's so nice to see you again, and if you've never seen me before, well, it's wonderful to meet you. In this video, I'll show you how I try to spend an entire week following the routine of a housewife from 1946. I've been requested this video quite a few times, and in fact, I have been wanting to make a video like this for years now, so I'm very excited to share this with you. I've been a homemaker for around 3 years now, and I like to think I'm quite alright at the job. But I've always wondered, and especially as a history lover, if I could measure up to a real 1940s housewife. Although I didn't go as far as acquiring a husband for this video, I did utilize several actual housework routines from the era to plan this week, as well as of course dressing the part. Although, to be fair, I can't say that was much of an effort since I do that all the time anyway. The routines I used were the skeleton housekeeping schedule from the 1941 edition of America's Housekeeping Book, and a Life magazine article, also from 1941, called Occupation Housewife, which describes the daily life of an American housewife. I combined them both and then added and changed around a few things to best suit my and my family's lifestyles. I chose to set this week in 1946 because post-war New Zealand was quite an interesting era, with a huge economic boom happening, while at the same time some rationing measures from the war were still in place. This was also a time when many women returned to a homemaker role, with World War II being over. Anyway, I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover, so let's get into the video at last. And if I've missed anything, I promise I'll let you know in the voiceover. I hope you'll enjoy. Good morning, everybody. It's 6:30 in the morning at the moment, and my 1946 housewife week has officially begun. I've actually been up since 5:30 because I had to wash and set my hair, which I was too tired to do last night, but never mind. It's now time to make and serve breakfast to the family. First step, setting the table. As you can see, it's still set up like Halloween, so I've got my work cut out for me. Okay, dear viewer, before you judge me, I did film this on the 3rd of November, which is still an acceptable time to have Halloween decorations up. The only reason you're seeing this so late is because it took me 1,000 years to edit. Anyway, once all the pumpkins and fake spiderwebs had been banished, it was time to set the table. Then it was on to making breakfast, beginning with boiling the kettle, as no 1940s breakfast is complete without coffee. Once the coffee was done, I moved on to preparing some scrambled eggs. I also made some toast. This combination of breakfast foods was very popular during the 1940s, and it still remains well liked today. Probably because it's quick, easy, and convenient. I put everything on the table, and it all looked very lovely. But I fear I got a little ahead of myself as nobody showed up. Well, it's 7:30 now, and breakfast is all ready to eat, but nobody in my household is actually awake because my sister is sick. So, did I get up this early all for nothing? Perhaps. Not even Icy is awake yet, but that's going to change. While I wait for everybody to awaken, I'll clean the kitchen and take Icy out. Icy, come on!
Hello. Good girl.
After the dogs went outside, I served them their breakfast. Good to know that at least someone in this household actually shows up for meals. Horrible manners. No, down. Icy seemed to really like the look of the human breakfast, but sadly for her, she can neither have coffee, toast, or scrambled eggs. I could, however, and I had a lot of plans for the day, so I couldn't wait for my family any longer. Not to worry, I wasn't lonely in the slightest. In fact, I had a rather distracting audience to watch me eat. I hope my family enjoys their breakfast. In the meantime, I have some housework to do. First, I'm going to get dressed, and I have my pony Sid to make breakfast for as well. You know, I have to start getting up this early every day. It's so gorgeous. My outfit for the day was this charming lavender house dress, which you may remember from my recent Make, Do and Mend video. It's very practical and comfortable. Hello. Good morning, Sydney. After Sid got his food, it was high time for me to face the horrific mess that was the kitchen. By this time, the family was up and had finished their breakfast, so I started by clearing the table. It had been a rather busy past few days, so the kitchen wasn't in the nicest shape. Before I could start on any dishes, I had to remove all of the compost and bring it away. That is disgusting. On my way back, I found a runaway chicken. Then it was time to do the dishwasher. Did you know that the electric dishwasher was invented in 1886? Of course, it took a while longer for the average household to catch on to the idea, but by the 1940s, especially post-war, having a dishwasher wasn't unusual. Since there were just too many dishes in my kitchen and the dishwasher was already full, I decided to wash the rest by hand. I also cleaned the stovetop and wiped down all the counter space. At last, the kitchen was sparkling clean. I'll be honest, this took me forever. Today is Monday, and according to my vintage routine, that means it's laundry day. Mondays are also meant for changing the sheets. But at the moment, that's proving to be a little bit difficult. I love you. While I waited for Icy to leave my bed in her own time, I decided this was the perfect occasion to do some hand washing. I went with a dark blue theme. a long vintage gown, a knitted dog sweater and one of my dresses. I rinsed them all in the tub and then I put the dog sweater into the sink to wash it separately. Look at that nasty dirty water! What on earth has Cosmo been up to? I soaked the dresses together in the bath and let them be for a while. By this time, the dogs had relocated to sunbathe on the courtyard, so at last I could get on with changing the sheets and doing the laundry. These sheets were actually still quite fresh and it seemed a slight waste to wash them already, but I really wanted to properly follow the 1940s housewife schedule. Anyway, here's me making my bed in double speed because if I showed it to you in normal speed, it would be horribly boring. I finally started the washing machine, another appliance that experienced a boom in popularity in the post-war era. While the laundry was laundrying, I went outside to hang up my hand washing and remove the weekend's laundry from the line. Then it was time for Icy's daily exercise and she wanted to play some fetch. Unfortunately, I threw her favorite toy right on top of a tree and spent a considerable amount of time climbing up to retrieve it. Reunited at last! In the afternoon, I made a sandwich for my sister who was staying home from school and made sure she was doing okay. Then I had to hurry up and get ready to go out and view a potential new home. Horrible lighting, but I don't have a lot of time to be honest. Running late as always. In hindsight, setting up a camera and filming myself doing my makeup while running late was not the most efficient idea, but during this week and especially on the first day, I wanted to share as much with you as possible. Which I suppose is how this video came to be so darn long. She's so cute! Why does something like this happen? Only when you're in a hurry. Let's get dressed. I chose a black and white vintage shirtwaist dress. It's murderously hot today, so I really would rather not bother with the girdle and stockings, but if I were really a lady from 1946, I wouldn't even be thinking those thoughts, so on they go. And I'm ready to go. I just need to choose a handbag and something for my head. I'm thinking either a bow or a hat. It's so hot. Here's my handbag. I have no idea what the time is, so I don't know if I'm on schedule or not. And there we go. From disheveled housewife to girl about town. At least I hope so. And I think I'm actually on time for once. This housewife schedule is really good for me. I think it's turning me into a responsible person. I forgot my hand. Here's a look at the full outfit. I was aiming for a mid to late 40s daytime look. Something on the casual side, but still suitable for being seen in town. A shot of scenery to symbolize going out to look at the house, as I believe showing any actual footage may be against the law. Alright, I'm back. I look very rough, so excuse me. I have a bit of catching up to do. I didn't like the house very much, by the way, but that's alright. Now I need to get back on schedule. My laundry has been in the washing machine for goodness knows how long, so I'm gonna go hang that up, and then I need to sit down and plan the meals for the week, and I need to start dinner already. So that's my day. And I'm more than happy to leave the girdle and stockings behind. It is so hot today. I quickly went about hanging up that morning's laundry. Although washing machines had become more accessible for the average home during the 1940s, dryers were not really common until over a decade later, so clothes in 1946 would have been hung on a line to dry. Since my house doesn't even have a dryer, I am doing my laundry in a historically accurate way either way. Next, it was lunchtime. A very late lunch, for by this time it was already around 4 o'clock and I was absolutely starving. I had a simple sandwich and a glass of juice. It felt nice to finally sit down and relax for a moment after having been so busy all day. The last task I completed before starting dinner was planning and writing down all the meals for the week, an important task for any home cook, 1940s or not. I tried to choose meals that would have been served in a household from 1946. I also wrote down my 1946 Housewife schedule to make it easier to follow and put both lists up in the kitchen. Then it was high time to start cooking dinner, accompanied of course by my frilly vintage apron. I was making pumpkin soup, not because I particularly wanted to, but because our Halloween jack-o'-lantern was getting a little old and we had to get rid of him while he was still edible. While I like eating pumpkin soup, making it is sort of a bore because, as anyone who has ever chopped a pumpkin will tell you, it takes quite a long time. I know there's a trick to soften the pumpkin by microwaving it, but as the first commercial microwave was only sold in 1947, that wasn't an option. When the entire jack-o'-lantern had been dismembered, I added onion, garlic and water and boiled everything together. When it had cooled down, I blended the mixture into a soup using a historically inaccurate stick blender? What was I thinking? Very disappointing, Melina. While the soup was being eaten, I got started on the dessert, which were small apple pies. I don't usually make a dessert every night, but this week I wanted to really commit to being a 1940s housewife and pull out all the stops. So along with planning a vintage-style main meal for every day, I planned a dessert too. On Monday evening, we were having a bonfire, so I wanted these pies to be practical and easy to carry around and be eaten outside. The bonfire was gorgeous and a lot of fun. It was a nice novelty to have dinner outside, and I must say that my soup turned out tasting quite delicious. The pies were also a hit. I'm sure you can guess the one with the M was mine. I had to monogram it because it's the only one with raisins in it, which no one else wanted. After dinner, I quickly raced back into the kitchen and made a dough to cook on branches over the fire. It's something I grew up doing as a child in Germany, where we called it Stockbrot, which directly translates to stick bread. Here's my sister demonstrating how to do it. I personally like mine absolutely charred. The bonfire was so much fun, but I have to say that by the end of it I was so tired that I had to go and take a nap, and now it's so late that I am just going to get ready for bed and leave today's chores for tomorrow, which I feel terrible about. Because I'm spending this week living like a housewife in 1946, I want to make my beauty routine historically accurate too. Now, because I'm one of those people who have a really specific skincare routine, I'm a little bit worried about how this will turn out, but let's try. This week's skincare is a jar of Pond's cold cream, which has been around since the early 1900s. Cold cream was the most popular product throughout the 1940s, acting as both a cleanser and moisturizer, and would certainly have been used by a housewife in 1946. The method is to spread the cream over your face and then wipe it off with a tissue or soft cloth. It also makes for a fantastic makeup remover. No offense whatsoever to the ladies of the 1940s, but how did they do this? My face feels so oily and I still feel like I'm wearing all of my makeup. No water, no moisturizer, nothing. It just feels wrong. I'm dithering about whether or not to just double cleanse and wash my face again after this, but I really want to be true to this experiment, so I think I'm really just going to leave it. And I have in fact used Pond's cold cream in the past multiple times to just remove my makeup, and it's great at that. But I don't think I've ever just used it as it was intended. Wish me luck. I don't want my skin to get any worse. The last thing I did was put my hair up into curlers, which I like to do sitting in my bed, even though I do in fact own a lovely antique dressing table. And that's Monday. Good night! Tuesday was an early start once again because I wanted to make my mum some scrambled eggs to take to work with her. Then I took the dogs outside, and after that they had their breakfast. I boiled some eggs for everyone else's breakfast, and because I was very hungry, I sat down to have a cup of coffee and an apple. Breakfast was an egg and mayonnaise salad on toast. My sister was still homesick, so I brought hers to her room. Next, I rinsed my face with water and made my bed. Then I opened the curtains to enjoy the breathtaking view of our old broken trampoline and took my hair out of its curlers. I decided to style it in a simple, no-fuss page boy. My outfit was once again my house dress from the day before, since I'd only worn it for half the day. Time for some housework, starting with the dreadfully messy kitchen. There was a lot to clean as I had been too tired the night before to get the kitchen in order. Although I don't like having such a small kitchen, especially when I have to share it with other people, I have to admit that having less space forces me to keep it clean, so at least there's that. And finished. Next up was feeding Sid, and Icy came with me. Sydney does not like it when Ice stands close to his bucket and watches him eat. Understandable, so I took Icy on a little walk to distract her. The countryside looks so pretty this time of year, and I wasn't feeling so well, so I tried to breathe as much fresh air as I could, so I had the energy for the next round of housework. I am so dizzy and lethargic today. It's awful. I feel like I'm wading through the day at half speed. It must be because of the weather, because it looks like it's going to rain any moment, and it's awfully humid. I just want to lie down. There's so much more to do. An everyday task on my list was to pick up the living room, and while I did that, I also removed the rest of the Halloween decorations. There was quite a lot of dusting to do, and a scrubbing of the cabinet was in order as a drink had exploded onto it in the previous weekend. I enjoyed making everything look spring-like again. The strange thing about Halloween in the Southern Hemisphere is having to kid yourself into thinking it's autumn for a week or so, even though it's sunny and flowers are growing outside. Time to pack everything away neatly for next year. I'm sorry, dear gentleman, but I need to tidy the sofa. There you go, isn't that more comfortable? For lunch, I had some leftover pumpkin soup and toast. Then I got on to peeling some potatoes for dinner. Although it was still afternoon, I was going to be out in the evening, so I had to prepare dinner early. I made a potato and cabbage salad based on a 1946 recipe. The perfect dish as it could be made ahead of time and eaten cold. I also made some brownies using my tried and true favorite recipe from movie star Katharine Hepburn. When both dishes were done, I packed some for myself to take with me and the rest was for my family to enjoy. On Tuesday evening, I went to visit my horse Bozza down at his grazing property. Here is my outfit, comfortable, practical, and 40s sportswear inspired. And that's Bozza's outfit. We had a great time walking in the sunset and Bozza enjoyed eating swamp grass. I also had a ride, which is a little hard to see as by this time it was getting dark, but I find that on a hot day it's much more pleasant to take a trail ride in the evening, for the rider and for the horse, I'm sure. Wednesday was a sunny day that started out the same as Tuesday, with some early morning takeaway lunch preparations, scrambled eggs and a cheese sandwich. Then, quickly before my mum left, I unloaded the rest of last night's groceries that I didn't have time to get last night, and made my mum a fruit salad for breakfast. Afterwards, I had a shower and set my hair in rollers. My favorite thing to listen to while doing my hair is the Pepsodent Show starring Bob Hope. Can anybody please tell me how that toothpaste commercial song is so darn catchy? After hanging around with Bob Hope and his special guest, Bing Crosby, it was time to make Sid's food. Here is Wednesday's outfit, a plain button-down dress in cream which made for a nice house dress. I then got on to setting the breakfast table for the rest of us, which was actually just myself and my sister who still wasn't well enough for school. Even though it was just us two, I decided to make an effort and prepare a really nice breakfast of cereal and fruit salad. I thought it looked quite pretty. When we finished breakfast, Sid's food was ready, and this time around I took both dogs with me, for going down the road to Sid's paddock makes for a nice little walk with plenty of interesting places to sniff. Then it was Icy's exercise time, which is one of the extra steps I added to my daily 1940s housewife routine. And I found a lemon in the backyard, which I plan to bake with later. Back inside, it was once again time to clean the kitchen, but as I had been keeping up with it quite well, there wasn't as much to do, so I didn't mind it much. I even had time to scrub all the countertops very thoroughly. Next, it was on to some dusting and general house picking up. At first I wondered why light cleaning of rooms was listed as an everyday task on the 1940s housework schedule. But as you can see here, things really do pile up. And it's much better to tidy a little bit every day than a lot once in a while. And it keeps the house looking good, which is always an advantage. After feeding the chickens their lunch, I restocked the pantry with the new groceries and put all the cans and such away. I have just been clearing away the groceries, and while I was putting away the peanut butter, I suddenly remembered something exciting, but also a little bit terrifying. A while back I was researching for this video, and I found, what was it called? Sandwiches for the man on duty. And that was pretty much sandwich filling recipes made to use during wartime. And that article had quite a few strange recipes that I wouldn't use those ingredients together, so it happens to be lunchtime, and I think this is a great opportunity to try them out. I may be reckless, but I'm no fool. I decided to halve the sandwiches so that, in case they taste awful, I won't have to eat too much. Both sandwiches included peanut butter, but I expected they would have drastically different flavor profiles. The first had chili sauce, weird but survivable, and the second was mayonnaise, yikes, and raisins. The recipe calls for ground raisins, but who the heck has that nowadays, and I have no clue how to grind raisins myself, so whole raisins it was. Lunchtime! I tried the peanut butter chili sauce sandwich first, because it was the less scary one. Although it certainly tasted unusual, it wasn't disgusting, and the more I got used to it, I eventually decided it was okay. As for the peanut mayo raisin abomination, I think my expressions speak for themselves. It's disgusting. Who thought of this idea? I don't know, but it would be a waste if I don't eat it, so I'm going to eat it. It was a terrible struggle, but I suffered through it and managed to finish the sandwich. As a reward, I decided to try out another much more appetizing sounding sandwich recipe. This one called for tomato ketchup, onions, hot sauce, and cheese. The weird tiny pieces of cheese were not part of the recipe, I just had a really small piece of cheese to get rid of. This one was delicious, a touch spicy, but luckily I enjoy spicy food, so this was the best sandwich out of the three. I have to sort the laundry that I washed on Monday, and the laundry I washed over the weekend, and another laundry from a bit longer ago too. Monday's laundry. More of Monday's laundry. Another one from Monday. More laundry. And more laundry. Sorting Monday's laundry and any subsequent ironing was actually meant to be done on Tuesday, according to the 1940s housewife schedule, and though I very much planned to catch up, I was falling more and more behind. Still, I did my best and sorted and folded for my life. Of course, this video is really sped up, but let's pretend I truly was folding towels this quickly. If I wasn't running over an hour behind, I would just... At last the laundry was done, but I had no time to rest, for I had to start cooking dinner right away. I was making a classic combination of boiled potatoes and steamed broccoli. A wonderful trick I learned is that while your potatoes are boiling, you can place your pot of vegetables on top, and the steam from the potatoes will steam your vegetables. For dessert, I made a small peach cobbler, which is one of the easiest and fastest desserts you can whip up if you have canned peaches in the house. Or any fruit, really. Look how nicely that turned out. I also added some green beans later for a bit more variety. And the potatoes were done too at the same time. For a protein, I fried some vegetarian sausages and dinner was ready. Wednesday was another evening out, this time for a band rehearsal, so I was short on time and was only able to iron one thing, the slacks I planned to wear that night. Here's my rehearsal outfit. A plain blouse and my freshly pressed slacks. Then it was dinner time, which, despite all my delays, was ready right on time, so that was one thing I could be proud of at least. The peach cobbler looked fantastic as well, though I didn't eat any as I wasted my time posing for a thumbnail picture I didn't even use. The kitchen looked horrific, but I had to get going, so it was Thursday Melina's problem. I actually filmed this on a different rehearsal, but you get the picture. Since we're an art rock band, I had to leave 1946 for a bit, but that's alright. Back at home, I did my skincare featuring my new best friend Pond's Cold Cream, and then it was off to bed. Well, today has certainly gotten off to a rough start. I was so tired when I came home from rehearsal last night that I fell asleep before setting my alarm, and when I woke up this morning, everybody had left the house and I didn't make anybody breakfast. I also failed to finish up yesterday's ironing when I got home, so I'll have to catch up even more today. I mean, I'll have to do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, today's task. I really am an awful, terrible housewife, and it's a good thing I'm not a real one. But all of this has led me to form a conclusion, which is you can't be a perfect or even decent housewife if you have other things going on that you are prioritizing. So for me, with my horse riding and music rehearsals, those are the things that have made me fall behind in my housework. Anyway, I suppose what I'm trying to say is that there needs to be some sort of compromise. If I'm going to have other things going on in my life taking up my time, then I can't be setting such high standards for myself in terms of housework. That being said, I'm not going to be going anywhere over the next 3 days, so hopefully I can now fully focus my time on the 1946 housewife routine, and who knows, maybe on one of the days I'll actually finish the day's tasks. My plan is to really catch up today and to be so darn good of a housewife that it's going to make up for my missed breakfast and all my late chores. After my introspective speech, I had the leftover peach cobbler for breakfast and got ready to work. Thursday was rubbish day, so my first task was emptying the bin. I then gave the bin a good scrubbing inside and outside because that's what a 1940s housewife would have done. When the bin was sparkling clean, I hauled the wheelie bin onto the side of the road so the rubbish could be collected. Because doing the rubbish was so much work, it somehow gave me vertigo, so I had to lie down for a second. But then I got right back on track for the daily living room tidy. Next, I cleaned the kitchen, and then I vacuumed the floors. Something curious I noticed while filming this video was that setting up a tripod making sure the lighting and the angle is alright and all of that, actually takes up quite a lot of time, and I can't help but wonder if I would have gotten far more tasks done if I wasn't constantly fussing around with filming. On the other hand, however, if I didn't document this 1940s housewife challenge, I wouldn't have been able to share it with you. It's lunchtime again, and today I'm once again inspired by a 1940s packed lunch ideas article, although this time around I won't be following the recipe directly. Here's what gave me the idea. Instead of the chutney and parsley, I simply mixed the leftover gravy and vegetables into the potatoes and made a sandwich out of that. A great way to use up your leftovers. Though the sandwich looked, unusual, it tasted rather nice. And I would say that, thanks to the potatoes, it was a lot more filling than a regular sandwich. After lunch, I emptied the dishwasher and then had the idea to make a little afternoon snack for when my family got home to make up for neglecting to prepare a breakfast in the morning. I decided on small quiche pastries with cheese and asparagus. The pastries turned out gorgeous, and they were ready just in time. After afternoon tea was served, I finally got started on the ironing. 2 days late, but better than never, I suppose. Since it was now Thursday, that meant I also had Wednesday's task to catch up on, which was mending, along with Thursday's task of thorough cleaning of a room. Dinner was spaghetti with tomato sauce. That's not spilled pasta on the floor, I don't know what you're talking about. I was surprised to learn that spaghetti was quite a popular dish during the 40s. I served mine with grated cheese and a salad. In the evening, I baked some cookies from a 1946 recipe. I used the one right at the bottom. I thought it would be nice to make a little something everybody can take with them to work or school. This recipe made so many cookies. Not that I'm complaining, of course. I finished baking the cookies and I had a few for dessert. They're very delicious. And I cleaned up the kitchen for the night. Finally, I have barely anything to clean tomorrow. And I straightened up the house a little bit. Now I'm about to go to bed. All I have to do is chuck Sid his dinner, hang up the laundry, which I completely forgot about, and I've prepared my mending that I'll do after my now nightly ritual of Pond's cold cream. I'm so happy to be at home tonight, and I feel like I'm finally getting things done and sticking to the schedule. Slowly but surely, I was getting used to my new, or rather old, skincare routine. It was actually quite nice not to get my face wet, and simply just applying and wiping off the cold cream took half the time my usual skincare did. I was too tired to do any mending, so I shifted it to Friday. On Friday, I got up very early as I wanted to cook everybody a special breakfast, a vegetarian edition of corned beef hash using beans instead of beef. While it was cooking, I put the rest of yesterday's peanut butter cookies into a pretty tin and put it out onto the dining room table so everyone could help themselves. That everyone, more often than not, turning out to be me. My bean hash invention was delicious, and I plan to make it again soon. Definitely recommend. After breakfast, I did a quick load of washing and hung it up outside to dry. This was not part of my 1940s housewife schedule, but Friday was supposed to be the last sunny day in a while, so I had to take the chance. Then I fed Sid and filled up his water bucket, and finally got around to Wednesday's mending, which really wasn't much to do at all. I stitched up a rip in my sister's jacket and fixed a small tear in the glove. Although today's extreme consumerism started in the post-war era, a frugal 1940s housewife who had experienced World War II rationing and shortages would certainly not have thrown out a mildly damaged piece of clothing. When I finished the mending, I took some time to style my hair, and because it was such a lovely day, I simply had to spend some time outside. Every year in the late springtime, we get a crazy amount of buttercups growing in our paddocks. Since the horses don't eat them, I always try to pick as many as I can and make pretty bouquets to display at home. I thought the dining room table with its fake flowers needed a sprucing up, so I went about picking a nice bunch of buttercups for it. For the table. Then Icy and I took a little rest underneath the trees, which was awfully peaceful and picturesque. But of course, Ice can never be still for too long. After that pleasant interlude, it was back to work for me. Like Thursday, Friday's special homemaking task was thorough cleaning of a room, and I planned to catch up and do two, so I had no more time to waste. I started on the bathroom in the house, which had collected quite a bit of clutter. Before I knew it, it was lunchtime, and I decided, while I was there, I ought to give the dining room table its sprucing up. I changed the tablecloth into a floral spring-like one, and of course added the freshly picked bouquet of buttercups. Then it was back to cleaning the bathroom. I don't have any of the cleaning products that were sold back in 1946, but the tried and true homemade combination of water and white vinegar does a wonderful job, and I've been using it for years. The next cleaning task I decided to tackle was my room, or as I like to call it, my little apartment, which had hosted a Halloween party the previous week and was looking truly horrible. I started by getting rid of all the junk on the coffee table and putting on a nice fresh tablecloth. Then it was time for the couch and all the blankets. With that corner of the room looking neat again, I could sit down for a second and admire my work. Icy also had a rest, as looking this beautiful has got to be exhausting. Then it was onto my vanity. First, I had to remove all the clothes I'd stored on my chair. We've all been there. And then I took everything off my dressing table that didn't belong there. Next up, I dusted some furniture, and the area was looking a lot better already.
I'm about to start making dinner, but it's so darn hot inside that I think I need some fresh air and a cool breeze. So, oh, don't sit down, Icy. We're gonna go on a walkie walk. I'm gonna take Icy for a walk. Let's go, Icy!
As certain somebody else couldn't help but overhear the magic words of walkie walk, so he came along too. It was truly a splendid afternoon. I filmed this video in early November, which is the middle of spring in New Zealand, and it's my favorite time of year because everything just looks glorious. Look at this adorable shot of Icy smelling the flowers. Back at home, it was high time to make dinner. I made a vegetarian meatloaf, which is basically just beans, egg, flour, herbs, and spices blended up with my historically inaccurate stick blender and baked in the oven like a cake. Looks kind of ugly, but I promise it tastes nice. While the meatless meatloaf was baking, I went to feed the chickens, where I found a random egg on the ground. Very strange. Oh my goodness. So, I was so happy to find that egg on the ground at the chickens, and so I put it in my... That's the meatloaf. Anyway, I put it in my apron pocket and I completely forgot about it until just now when I leaned against the sink to wash my hands and it broke in my pocket. It's in here. Got it. Alongside the loaf, I boiled some potatoes and fried cabbage and carrot. For dessert, I made a bread and butter pudding. By the way, if you're thinking that this meal looks like something British people ate in the war, you'd be right, because I got this recipe from a British wartime newsreel about cabbage. The dessert was very delicious also. After dinner, I put the leftovers aside, washed the dishes, and put them away. Then at last, I got ready for bed and completed my nightly ritual of Pond's cold cream. On Saturday, I made waffles for breakfast, for which I needed to use my emergency egg reservoir, our chicken Charlie's secret nest. According to the 1940s housework schedule, Saturday's special task was baking, which I was happy about as I love to bake, and I personally planned to conduct a swift all-round tidying of the house with a particular focus on the second bathroom. I also wanted to do a little work in the garden, but as the skies were looking rather overcast, I wasn't so sure about that. After breakfast, I had such a wave of vertigo that I just had to lie down and have a nap. And now it's noon, and I haven't really done anything, apart from most of the kitchen and, of course, fed Sid and the dogs. But that's okay, it happens sometimes, and to be honest, I don't really have much on the cards today, just baking for tomorrow and cleaning the second bathroom. For any of you who are new to my channel, I do struggle with chronic vestibular issues, which is why I'm always having to lie down in this video. After I made my bed, I folded and put away Friday's laundry before the rain started. Oh, and here's my outfit for the day, a simple floral blouse and slacks. Though I had been wearing almost exclusively dresses during my housewife week, I do tend to normally wear slacks around the house. And it did indeed end up raining, as my bout of vertigo predicted, although that didn't stop Ice from wanting to play outside, so I decided to do some garden work after all. While I was there, I also picked a lemon to use for that afternoon's baking. Really being rained on right now. But Icy doesn't seem to care, she still wants to go on playing. When Ice finally allowed me to go inside, I did a couple of small chores like putting away and folding the laundry and giving my room a vacuum. Then I gave our other bathroom a makeover. I don't have anything particularly interesting to say about that, so here's a cleaning montage. It's raining so hard outside that in the house it looks like it's already dark. And I have to go to the chickens, and I really don't want to. I'm going to get absolutely soaked. But I need eggs for dinner and baking because we only have one. So I hope the chickens have something for me, and it will at least be worth it going out there in the rain. Oh my gosh! Hello, what are you doing? Hey, what the heck are you doing out here? I only got 2 eggs. I know the girls tried their best, but I'm going to have to think of something else to make for dinner tonight. Before I started on dinner, I still had a cake to bake, so I got on with that. I made a lemon cake, which I was planning to bring along with me to Sunday's music club afternoon tea. Spoiler alert, I did in fact forget to bring the cake the following day, but my family ate it instead and they liked it very much. I've made this recipe a couple of times and it's always a hit. For dinner, I chopped up some parsnips and sweet potatoes, seasoned them with oil and spices and baked them in the oven along with some potatoes. Then the cake was ready. The key to its sugar glaze is to pour it on while the cake is still hot. Here's the finished dinner, quite colourful as you can see. And I added some green beans, gravy, and these plant-based fish finger sort of things. We had some leftover meatloaf from Friday, so I had to eat that too. I must have been extremely hungry because that is a humongous portion size, but good for me. For dessert, I made a self-saucing pudding, which I made for the first time, and we had that with Friday's leftover custard. In the evening, I tidied the kitchen and vacuumed the house. I just vacuumed the entire house, which was surprisingly exhausting for this time of night. And the kitchen is finished for the night, so I'm going to head into the bathroom and draw myself a nice, relaxing bath. I think I deserve it, at least a little bit. I wanted to show you my nighttime ensemble, which I thought looked really lovely. I inherited both garments from my grandmother. Before my bath, I completed my Pond's cold cream ritual, of course, and check out this cute rose-scented bath bomb, which they probably didn't have back in the 40s, but shh. Then at last it was time to relax. See you Sunday. Shoo shoo! This was the last day of my 1946 Housewife Challenge, and if anybody is still watching this, I'm impressed and touched. Since I was going to be out for much of the day, I had very little housework planned, and every vintage housewife routine I've come across described Sunday as a day for rest. Here's another look at that negligee. As usual, I struggled to decide what to wear. It was between this charming dress in blue floral rayon I sewed a few years ago using a 1944 pattern, and a more recent creation, this white bolero and skirt set. For breakfast, I kept it very simple with toast and coffee as I was in a hurry, but still made an effort to have everything looking nice. I eventually chose the blue dress as it didn't need to be ironed and the other outfit did, and I was on my way even though my hair looked atrocious. It's so humid today. My hair is just looking so awful. I don't know what to do. Luckily, I was able to fix my hairdo during the car ride. Here is a proper outfit video that I took after we came home because I didn't have time beforehand. It was nice to dress up after being a drab housewife for a week. Sunday's first stop was church. During the 1940s, being religious was more common than it is today, and many if not most families attended some sort of church on Sundays. Being Catholic myself, I wasn't at Mass for this video's sake, but it certainly helped the historical accuracy. Next, it was a trip to a variety music club I occasionally attend. Here's a few performance snippets. I can't resist, I'd be a fool to try. I know with just one kiss I could kiss my heart goodbye. An old man Moses dead, I found out, most kicked the bucket, and old man Moses dead. Yeah, that was it. Thank you. Even though I forgot the cake, it was a fun afternoon. That is, until my brother's truck overheated and we had to wait at the side of the road for over an hour for it to cool down. Fun times. I just came home, super late because we were standing at the side of the road for a good hour. I'm dizzy, I'm tired, but what do you know? It's already time to make dinner. And I don't want to. But until midnight tonight, I am a 1946 housewife. And what would a 1946 housewife do in this situation? She would pull herself up by her bootstraps and make that dinner. I just want a nap. Let's do this! To restore my spirits, I had a quick sandwich and a cup of tea, and then it was on to preparing dinner. Nothing fancy, but it was food, and thanks to my forgetting the lemon cake, we had a dessert too. Well, folks, it's been a very productive week, and although it was exhausting at times, I enjoyed myself. Well, most of it anyway. I've cleaned the kitchen, and the last thing I'm going to do today and this week is my nighttime routine of Pond's cold cream. Then it's off to bed and bye-bye 1946. The last thing I want to say before I conclude this video is how surprised I am at Pond's cold cream. I'd been using it for a week and my skin still looked good, so it was obviously working. I really came to enjoy the nightly ritual of applying the cream and wiping it off. The past week has been interesting, productive, and very insightful. I really enjoyed each day having a specific order of tasks, so I always knew exactly what to do, even if sometimes I didn't do them. The house looked wonderful by the end of the week, and my family loved me making a dessert every night. I learned that Pond's cold cream is actually really effective skincare, I should wear house dresses more often, and setting up a camera to film an entire week of your life takes up a surprisingly large amount of time. I definitely struggled a lot at the start of the week when I had a lot of things going on, but later on in the week, when I made housework my #1 priority, I got along much better with the routine. Though, I have to say, I never did end up getting a lot of time to rest. Didn't stop me from resting though, but I'm considering following my 1946 routine again for a couple of days out of the week, just because it was so effective. Although I certainly won't be getting up at the crack of dawn to make everyone breakfast again. I love my family, but sorry, I'm not a morning person. Being a housewife in the 1940s was a demanding occupation, and completing this challenge has been a really humbling experience for me. Thank you all so much for watching and coming along with me. This has got to be, by far, the longest video I have made yet, so I have to commend your amazing attention span. What should I do next? Should I spend a week in the Great Depression? Or maybe I should give wartime rationing a go and spend a week in 1942? Let me know down in the comments, and bye for now!